Today I'm going to work on a rosary. It's a rosary that I want to make for a friend of mine. I actually bought the parts probably a couple of years ago. It's been a couple of years that I haven't really worked on anything because I didn't have a studio. I mean, I guess I could have worked on stuff even without having a studio, but you know, for a couple of years now I've had some health issues, and then my husband had some health issues, and then we moved, and it just seemed like I was always busy doing other things. Now I'm using tarnish resistant brass wire. This is 20 gauge, which is round about the gauge I like to use, 20 or 18. I think this one was 18. There we go. But this brass is a little more forgiving because this is coated to give it that color. It's got a very slight, I think, kind of a plating or a coating on it. So if it gets chewed up too much by my pliers, then it won't look so nice. But brass is a little more forgiving. It can get a little bit, maybe it might be a little bit stronger so it doesn't get chewed up as easily. And also if it does get chewed up, there's no coating. The metal underneath, you know, the metal all the way through is the same color. So if it gets a little bit scratched or a little bit dinged or something, it's still going to be the same color underneath, and it's not really going to show. It's a little more forgiving. Now I'm very particular about my loops being straight. You don't have to be, right? But if you look at how my loops are from the side, let's see if I can get a good view of them from the side. You'll see that they're like, you know, they're straight. They're very straight. I think that just looks nicer when I link things together. Now I do my loops this way so that you can see both loops from the same side. Some people will do them opposite each other. So like if this one's going this way, then they'll make this one go this way. But you see how that's like the loop, you can see the loop, and this looks like a straight line. And if you turn it, this is the loop and a straight line. I don't know what difference it makes. I don't know if it's just personal preference or if there's some reason people do that, but that's not how I do mine. But you can. I mean, you know, I don't think it makes much difference. Whatever you like, whatever feels comfortable to you. It might be easier to make the loops if you do it that way, because you can get a little bit of leverage off of this first loop to bend it that direction and make the loop the other way. But I don't have a problem, so I don't do that. So I should probably tell the story of how I got involved in jewelry. I could talk about that for a while. The very first piece of jewelry I remember ever making was a necklace, a beaded necklace, when I was maybe about 4 years old. I had a little kit that had a string and some plastic beads, and I made a beaded necklace, and I wore it, and I pretended to be Cinderella, because in the Walt Disney Cinderella movie, Remember, she has that blue beaded necklace that she wears, and then her stepsisters come out and rip it off her neck when they get mad, and they tear her dress apart and they rip her necklace off. And for some reason, I was just really interested in that necklace and in her beads in that movie. And when I made my own little beaded necklace, I wore it and I would pretend like I was Cinderella, and I was playing around, and I ripped the necklace off my neck, just like they did to Cinderella. And all the beads fell off, of course. And then I was all upset because I'd broken my own necklace. Of course, I should have known I was breaking my own necklace, but, you know, I was like 4, so what did I know? But, I don't know. I was just, from a very young age, I was fascinated by jewelry in stories and how jewelry is involved in stories. You know, like it wasn't enough to just say, okay, she had this dress that they ripped apart. There it is. You know, like ripping the necklace added insult to injury, you know, it enhanced the story. It was an important embellishment, and they took it away from her, you know? And that fascinated me. And then I started paying attention to jewelry. I just remember, you know, after that, always paying attention to the jewelry that people wore in movies and TV shows and stuff, and how jewelry featured into different stories and things. And how jewelry tells stories. You know, like my mom had a jewelry box, and I would get it out and I would ask her to tell me all the stories of everything in her jewelry box. And I would do this more than once. I mean, even though she had done it once or twice or 3 times or whatever, like I was never satisfied. Like I always liked hearing it over and over again when I was a kid. I'd say, where did this come from? And where did you get this? And how old were you when you bought this? And, you know, every piece of jewelry had these stories attached to it. And so, you know, I don't know, I was just fascinated with that. With jewelry being part of stories, and with people having stories about jewelry. And using their jewelry to tell stories about themselves. So yeah, I could string beads when I was young. Now, when I was about 9, when I was in 4th grade, what age is 4th grade in the U.S.? It's like 9 or 10 years old. I think it was 9. My dad brought home some wire. He was an electrician, and there was this kind of electrical wire that had, it was wire, but it had like a coating around it. It was very thin, and it was stiff, so it would hold its shape when you bent it. And it had different colors, because, you know, you had to be able to tell different wires apart from each other when you were wiring things, I guess. So, like, you know, there would be like red with a stripe of yellow, or yellow with a stripe of red, or blue with a stripe of green, or whatever. I don't know where he got this wire or what it was, but he had like a coil of it. And I took it and I made, I'll show you how I did it. I would take it and kind of do what I'm doing now. Like, I would take it and make rings and bracelets out of it, because I would make a loop like this, right? And then I would wrap the wire around like this, right? And it was just stiff enough that it would hold its shape, but not so stiff that I needed pliers to do it. I remember doing it with my bare hands. But I would coil it like this. And because it was different colors, like red with yellow stripes or yellow with red stripes or whatever, it would end up looking like beads. Like it would go like red, 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 yellow, red, red, yellow, or, you know, blue, green, blue, or whatever. And, you know, I would wrap it all the way around. And when I got to the end, then this part, you know, I would bend it around and wrap it through the hole to make a loop, you know, that I would wear as a bracelet or a ring or something. I didn't have enough wire to make necklaces, but I could make rings and I could make bracelets. And I was just fascinated with that. I remember doing that really, and I don't remember where I got the idea from either. I don't know if my dad taught me the idea, like if my dad said you could do this with it, or if I had seen it in a craft book somewhere in a library, or if a friend had told me. Like, honest to God, I don't remember where in the world I got the idea for making rings out of that particular kind of wire. But I did. Then, of course, when I got a little bit older, I think I was in junior high, which would be like 11, 12 years old, 13, something like that. You know, people would make friendship bracelets where you would get like embroidery thread and like kind of braid it together and make bracelets and things for your friends. I always liked jewelry, so I had a lot of jewelry when I was younger, and I would wear it, and of course it would break, and then I'd have to fix it and stuff. So that's how I kind of got to where I was using pliers to fix things. And I was in 9th grade, I think, so like maybe 14 years old, and I had a friend who asked me, like, you know, at the time they said they wanted to know what I was real interested in for like hobbies or crafts or something, and I said, well, you know, I really like making jewelry. And he gave me a necklace, and he said, well, can you turn this into earrings or something? I think that's what it was. He wanted a pair of earrings for his sister or something, and he gave me this necklace. And so I turned it into earrings. And that was kind of when I really got the bug of like, oh wow, I really enjoy making jewelry. Now, I didn't know anything. Like it wasn't like, you know, we're talking back in the 80s, the mid 80s. It's not like I was watching YouTube videos or, you know, like I had a ton of craft books or anything like that. It was just something I did. And then I think I was maybe 16 or 17 when I went to a gem and mineral show. I lived in the Mojave Desert, just like the setting of Fallout New Vegas. And I went to a gem and mineral show, and there were people there who were selling beads, you know, made out of stone and stuff. They were selling findings, right? Findings is the generic term for like all the things you use to make jewelry. You know, all the little clasps and wires and, you know, bits and pieces. And I think that gem show was what really got me hooked. I started buying materials. I started making earrings with wire and stones and things, and I started just being really into that. And I started studying gemology on my own. I bought a book. I did buy a book at that point. I bought a book all about gems and minerals, and I started studying those. And then I had friends that would see the earrings and stuff that I made and the pendants and things that I made, and they would offer to buy them. They wanted to buy them from me. And I said, oh, that's cool. And then when I was like 18, 19 years old, I started taking my stuff. I might have still been 17. I don't remember, but around that time, and we're talking 30 years ago, come on. Around that time, I started taking stuff to shops to make extra money. I would take things and the shopkeepers would buy them from me to sell in their shops. And then that's when I guess, because I was selling things, that's when I became a pro. But really, making jewelry was just a hobby of mine for many, many years until I had my first daughter. I mean, I had, you know, a few bead trays and I would make necklaces and things like that, but I didn't really make very much of it, and I didn't sell very much of it at all until my daughter was born, and I was not going to go back to work. I was going to stay home with her, and I thought, well, since I'm staying home anyway, I'll start making jewelry and selling it for extra money. And that was 20 years ago. And here I am. And then at one point, I don't remember what year, there was a period of time, this was later though, after high school, when I was in my 20s, wish bracelets were really popular too. I don't know if I ever made any, but I used to buy them because you could buy them for like $1. They would be up at the cash registers, and they were little, they weren't made out of embroidery thread. They were made out of like, I don't even know what you would call it, like raffia, like kind of like little plant fiber thread. It wasn't even as strong as hemp. It was like real thin and kind of flimsy, and it was just a little beaded bracelet that had like, well, it was braided, like 3 strands braided, and then it would have like some colored beads in the center, like 5 or 6 colored beads, and you could pick different colored ones. But the idea of the wish bracelet was you made a wish and you tied it around your wrist or around your ankle. I would always tie mine around my ankle for some reason. And then you wore it until it fell off. And then when it fell off, that's when your wish was supposed to come true. Do you remember those? That was in the 90s. Those were really popular. And then when I was in college, I went to college on the West Coast. I wasn't in the Mojave Desert anymore. I was at the beach. They actually called the college, the nickname of the college was the Beach. It was in Long Beach, California. And there, what was really popular was hemp jewelry, because there was a lot of surfers, and you could wear the hemp jewelry in the salt water of the ocean and it wouldn't fall off or get ruined. And so hemp jewelry was super popular. And so I made hemp jewelry. It was like macrame. You know, in the 70s when you'd make macrame wall hangings or macrame pot holder things, you know, plant holders and stuff. I don't know what, macrame vests and all that in the 70s. Well, the same knotting techniques that were used in the macrame would be used to make the hemp jewelry. So you know, depending on how you tied the knots, you would have all these different little patterns that would emerge from the hemp thread. And those were super popular. But yeah, I've made a ton of those over the years. People sometimes ask me how I make my loops the same size every time. And that just has to do with where you put the wire on your pliers. Because if you put it in the same spot every time, then it's going to have the same diameter every time. I just want to say thanks to everybody who's been here hanging out with me, watching me do stuff with my hands. Linking beads together. Let's pull the beads down so we can see all the beads I linked today. I haven't linked them to each other, but I've put them on wire, so now all I have to do is hook them all together. I need to figure out whether I want to go ahead and make that rosary I was talking about, or if I want to make it into something else. I could make a very long necklace. Alright, I am gonna go. Time to go make dinner here. So, please take care of yourselves, wash your hands, stay safe, stay healthy. Until next time, bye!